How are your energy levels? Have you asked yourself lately? We are diving in this episode deep into a topic that so many of us can relate to: midlife energy struggles. If you've ever wondered why you feel more drained than you used to, or why your motivation, focus, and zing for life seem to be running on empty, you are not alone. There are hidden roadblocks that could be zapping your energy every single day. And today, we're uncovering them with a true expert in the field. Dr. Christine Lee, a clinical psychologist and energy coach, is here to break down the 10 biggest energy roadblocks that women face in midlife. And more importantly, how to clear them so that you can feel vibrant, focused, and unstoppable again. So get ready for some eye-opening insights, simple but powerful shifts, and the motivation to take charge of your energy like never before. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's dive into today's conversation with Dr. Christine Lee. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Sound good? Let's get started. Hello and welcome. I hope this finds you jumping and not crawling across the finish line of February if you're listening to this episode when it drops. But don't worry if you're crawling. Dr. Christine Lee is here today to walk us through the 10 ways to unblock our energy and start taking back our power and zest for life. Maybe you guys know Christine. I've had her on the podcast a few times, and she always delivers great new ideas to try to make our lives better. Dr. Christine Lee is a clinical psychologist, productivity expert, and the procrastination coach. With over 25 years of experience, she has helped thousands of women, especially those in midlife, overcome overwhelm, clear mental and physical clutter, and reclaim their energy and time. And she is the creator of Simply Productive, her unique group coaching program, and the Re-Energize Your Home Challenge. Dr. Lee specializes in teaching others how to break through habits of avoidance and indecision, making transformation feel simple and achievable. Her work has been featured in Oprah Magazine. She is passionate about helping women break free from stress, self-doubt, and limiting beliefs so that they can create the space, clarity, and confidence to live fully. Let's welcome Dr. Christine Lee. Well, I have the amazing Christine Lee, Dr. Christine Lee. I'm sorry, I left your doctor out there.
That's okay.
No, it's very important. It's very important. But my daughter is going to be working on that, so I want to give all doctors credit due where it is due. And it's lovely to see you. Welcome back to the Thin Thinking podcast.
Lovely to see you. Thanks for remembering the doctor and for having me on again. And great to see you too.
So Dr. Christine Lee has some 10 roadblocks for women in midlife that I want to walk through with her because I love these. I love lists. Aren't lists great?
Lists are kind of where I started, I think, so many millions of years ago, blogging, that was the deal, right? It was very easy to come up with a listicle. They actually came up with a
Yeah.
term for the article of lists. And I remember doing that all the time. Lately, not so much, but for this episode, I thought, let's do it because I think that there are really themes when you work with clients, right? You know
Hmm.
that. I know it.
Hmm.
There are themes within ourselves. And I think it can be a really good use of our energy and time to just distill what is going on here, right? What is the theme? What is the pattern that I either hate or love? Let's just look at them. And as midlife women, let's decide, what do we want to keep? What do we want to toss? How do we make things lighter and easier for ourselves in this time of life that can be so fraught with all the things and all the wishes and all the responsibilities. Let's just do this and make sure our energy is taken care of and that we have enough when we need to take action and that we have enough left over to really just enjoy this part of our lives.
Well said. So are you going to count down from 10, 10 down to 1? Or are you going to count from 1 to 10?
I have it listed 1 to 10, and it's
Okay.
it's super easy. And I'm really excited to have Rita in this conversation because I know she's such an expert in these issues and also working with women in midlife as well. So the first
Right.
one is maybe not, well, I'm gonna say it is a roadblock. And I wrote it first for a reason. And what it is that a definition of anxiety. And there's so many different ways we can talk about anxiety, but I believe that anxiety comes when we have a belief that we won't be able to cope.
Mm,
Somehow, oh, this person's looking at me funny, or this person's going to criticize me, or this isn't going to fly, or I'm not going to be this, that, or the other thing enough. And
mm,
then the fear happens when we think we're not going to survive that. So it's just a little bit of a reminder that, you know what, by the way, we survive everything.
right.
And when you get to midlife, it's kind of time to say, you know what, I'm going to use that fact and use that reality as a springboard for me to try bigger and better things or try the things that I've ignored and been too afraid to try, or to decide that I have this power to change my life in whichever direction I wish, because I know, you know what? For all the anxieties I've had over my life, I've survived every single one.
Yeah. So you're saying like for instance, the fear that comes from not or anxiety that comes from what when we're thinking ahead, like, oh, well, what if my kid, something happens to one of my kids, or what if I tried this thing and it doesn't work out and it goes bad for me? Like if I've always wanted to go traveling, but travel, then it means doing this and having directions and having to check into a hotel and deal with people. You mean like that? Like we'll just go, no, our brain will go, no, I can't do that. But then when we get to this age, we're like, but you know what? I can get on a plane. You know,
Yeah.
that one's done. If I feel a little weird, going from point A to point B, I'll figure it out. I've been able to do difficult in my life, So you're meaning like the distinction between like being run by our fears and our limiting beliefs around and versus like, oh, we're of a certain age, so we've had enough life experiences to know I can trust myself.
Yes. And also just understanding that that's what anxiety is in the first place. It's kind of
Mm,
this prediction of something not going well and then our having a bad reaction to it. And the
yeah,
thing is, it's like if things go not as we had planned or as we wish, we're going to have to cope with that. And likely, if we're in this neutral space where we're not worried ahead of time, we're actually going to cope with that event in an even better, more relaxed,
right.
more effective way. So It's just a little tip to just remind you, oh, you know what? This anxiety is sourced by me. Like I created this future situation where I feel like I can't handle anything. And
Yeah.
that's just, I think, a belief that we can eradicate when we try.
Yeah. Well, and our brain will go so quickly from, like, let's say, like a financial situation, like we'll think, wow, if I lose this job or I don't get this job or if this happens, then I'm going to be on the street. Like we
Yep.
go from, you know, our comfortable little life to I will be pushing a grocery cart down the street with my belongings in it,
Yeah.
and yeah, and you do cope from one point to another. I had a friend because the LA fires. I didn't know anybody super directly that was impacted, but a friend of a friend was, and she lost her home in Altadena. Tragic. And she didn't have a lot of money. So she literally is homeless. But she's resourceful and she's, of the age. And she lined up a year's worth of couch surfing dates so she's found accommodations for a year in comfortable places. Some of these are house sitting things where she'll be the only person in the house. So yeah, you know, even
Wow. Thank
that kind of a
goodness for her
situation.
resourcefulness.
Yes, but she dug deep and I mean, what a shock. I
Right.
mean, but yeah, I
And
don't know if I,
no anxiety could have predicted the
yeah,
catastrophe
no,
of the fires, right? And again, I say thank goodness for her and her
she's
resourcefulness
safe.
and the fact that she is going to build from there, right? She's going to build something that is going to it's going to she's going to cope, basically is the message, right? And we're going to survive.
Yeah, she'll be okay. She'll in a year you can figure something else out. And,
Yeah.
but yeah,
The other thing is we change as our circumstances change. So that's another thing. It's not on my list, but uh, we kind of don't factor that in to our seeing the future. We think something's going to happen in the future and it's going to be beyond me. But the thing is, when you do encounter things that are new or really difficult or whatever, you then grow and change and adapt to meet those circumstances. So everything is kind of fluid, and anxiety keeps us thinking everything has to stay the same. I have to be hyper rigid and controlling and in this fear state. And I just think that's limiting your power and it's limiting the options for coping when things actually do happen.
right. Exactly. Well,
Okay.
what's number two?
Number two is the roadblock of people pleasing. And I think
Mm,
women tend to be known as the characters in this category. And I think people pleasing is so subtle, right? Because nobody's calling people out. Oh, that's a people pleaser so often. It's just
mhm,
stuff that we do in our everyday lives. It's kind of how much are we thinking about taking care of other people's feelings over the course of a day, right?
yeah,
Versus how much am I allowing myself to tend to my own well-being over the course of a day? And there's a really big difference between the two states. And of course,
right.
most of us operate between the two, but I'm speaking to the group of people who may be listening to us talk today who are really primarily focused on making sure everyone is not mad at them, that everyone is taken care of, and that they're neglecting their own needs in the service of taking care of being in the service of other people. And I think in midlife is this wonderful period where, again, you get to decide, did that strategy work for me? Have I grown from that strategy? Am I satisfied and feeling like I'm able to grow in the directions that I choose? And oftentimes I've seen that when people are stuck in the people pleasing zone, that their options for emotional growth are somewhat more limited
Right.
they're not free to gallivant and create things because they're really bogged down with obligations and stressors and appointments and right being
And
on call for
resentment,
other
let's
people.
face it. Let's
Yeah.
face like that. It's that, that's what I see is the resentment that then drives those other behaviors too. So like, we're bending over backwards to help everybody out, but then secretly resenting it rather than just saying no. And they
Yeah.
might, that other person might be upset, but it's kind of better than resenting them, you know.
One of the best lessons I ever learned as a human being was that everybody is actually going to be fine, right? Again, with this theme of coping,
Yeah,
everybody gets to cope, right? And people don't just cope because you're helping them. They actually have their natural coping skills in abundance, right? And
yeah,
when we step back from the people pleasing role, we actually get the relief of seeing that actually things do work out and actually people do take care of themselves. And there, you might be even doing the other person a favor by laying back a bit. So the tip here is really just to decide it's okay for me to pay attention to myself a little bit more in this phase of my life.
yeah. Yeah, it's a great, and especially with children, you know, uh, we both have kids who are adulting, and it's easy to, want to take their pain away, but they kind of need to have that pain to
Yeah,
grow.
yeah,
That's the lesson I'm always up against is, do I want to be super mom? Not really. I'd rather they learn the lesson, but it's hard. It's hard sitting on that pain of watching them, yeah, just struggle with something, but knowing
yeah.
that they really, 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 really need to struggle in order to get that lesson.
Well, there's a path. They're on their path, right?
Yeah.
And we can, much as we might want to change or redirect or be on that path too with them, it really is, like you said,
Yeah.
it's their room and their time to grow in that way also. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, number three on this list is overthinking.
Mm,
Major roadblock, I think, for energy, for one, right? When you're overthinking, I oftentimes think of the brain as a literal space. And when you're overthinking, the space is cramped, it's crowded, it's messy, it's cluttered,
mm,
and you are in distress because you're just trying to control the circumstances. You're trying to find the right answer. That I hear a lot, right? What is the right answer? And we say that very casually, but really, what is the right answer for so many things that we deal with, right? Like raising kids and what's the right way to raise a kid? I mean, how many different ways, how many
yeah.
different feelings and thoughts and possibilities exist in any one moment when you're raising a kid, right? So I think the overthinking can be a source of loss of energy for women in midlife that can be reclaimed. That we can say, I trust myself. I trust my instinct here. I trust that I've thought this through enough, quite a bit. And I heard something somewhere, and I thought it was important enough to share here about the overthinking that it's likely if you're overthinking that you've already figured out the answer because you've overthought. And I thought that was kind of cute and probably real, right? That we're just kind of hammering something and we can just put down the hammer. It's okay, right?
Right.
Everybody's going to be okay.
Right. What are some tools for overthinking? Like do you think brain dumping like in a journal is helpful? Do you know what I mean? Like just kind of, or taking action on, well, I mean, sometimes overthinking, you can't like take action on something because you were trying to figure something out. But for me, I mean, when I'm overthinking something, often I'll just write it all out and then that will help my brain start to organize it because it feels very overwhelming. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's probably different for everyone what is going to
Mm,
provide the relief. from that tension. But I would say that's the direction you want to hope for, right? Is that if I can just like let the air out here and just kind of relax the system so that I can actually think clearly and think at my best or think a reasonable solution for this current conundrum. And I
Yeah.
think it's just saying like enough is enough and that I don't have to tear myself apart to get to an answer because that doesn't make sense to me anymore, right?
Yeah.
That I am not 20 years old anymore, right? I can't put myself through every ringer. I need to figure this out. I need to accept the situation, accept whatever limitations there are, and keep going and keep
Hmm.
growing, right?
Mm.
And decide I've got the answer already. I've got a reasonable answer. And journaling, I think, is very in vogue right now, from what I can see. And yeah, talking to yourself in some way, but in this loving, not crazy,
Right.
right? Like driven, kind of insisting on, again, the right answer. I think that's the answer, is really saying, if I
Yeah.
can calm myself down, that's the kind of thinking level I want to be at.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Love
right.
it.
Love it. Number four is
Uh,
this idea of knowing where you are with your energy. Are you
mm,
feeling high energy? Like you can do it, you're on top of the world. You've got that drive, that creative energy, that spark is lit. Or are you super low in energy? And are you pairing your behaviors with your energy? And do you just have awareness of the shifts that you go through in energy across the week, across the month, even maybe according to the seasons? What kinds of shifts do you go through in terms of your energy? And are you insisting or planning or scheduling in your rest so that you're making the most out of this high energy, low energy system, right?
mm,
That you
mhm.
you understand as a woman in midlife that rest may be even more important than ever, that your brain needs a time to have a break, to clear out the garbage, to make sense of what is needed, to right? Keep
Mhm.
keep the bearings, I think, is in some ways the game of midlife, is to say, you know what? We've got more, there's more where this came from, but I'm not going to tear myself apart doing this anymore, right? I'm going to enjoy my rest. I'm not going to feel guilty about the breaks that I'm taking.
Right. Right. And leveraging when you're high energy and knowing like what part of the day you're higher energy. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm a big fan
All
of
right.
naps.
I think when they're
Guiltless
needed,
naps.
they are needed, right? Just accepting this is necessary, right? No guilt
Yes.
needed.
No guilt
All right,
needed.
no guilt needed. Number five is to nurture your personal energy. And
Mm,
that sounds the same, but it's kind of slightly different. It's, again, that tending to the garden that is you, right? That you're
mhm,
going to have proper hydration. You're going to have great food. You're going to have sunshine. You're going to have a positive attitude. You're going to not give in to despair, but understand that those feelings may come when they come, right? So acceptance is part of this. Really healthy habits is part of this,
mhm,
right? And when preparing for this conversation, I really thought of the work that you do, Rita, about helping people to maintain a weight that is healthy and
mm,
desired by them, right? To feel
right.
that we're not carrying extra that is unneeded is part of nurturing your personal energy, of knowing that you are have control, you have a
Yeah.
say in how your system, your operating system, your precious body is operating, how your brain is working, right? That we
Right.
have a role and a responsibility for keeping things in as good a shape as we can. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think that, from a weight management perspective, I just got off a call with some advanced students who were talking. We did a low carb challenge in our community, and they were saying, "Oh, it's so interesting because some of them discovered certain foods that they were just taking for granted that they took out of their diet that made them feel much more energy, much more connected to themselves." And they were talking, and then we had a conversation about like, oh, see, these foods, they may not make us gain weight or lose weight. They're like cookies or something. We were talking about it. But it makes me feel like it engages my brain. So I'm thinking about it. So it's taking energy away from me being present in my life. Like eating cookies sometimes will stimulate a part of the brain. So you're now thinking about food all day. And so even honoring what you're putting in your body from an energetic standpoint, just for like, I want my mind to be free and I want my body to feel good. But really having to, we were talking about the surrender of that because you get beaten up by your choices so often. You kind of have to, and that's the great thing about being midlife. You're like, yeah, I've been beat up by cookies enough. I can let those cookies go. And there's other cookies I can eat that don't make me think about food all the time, but those cookies, I can let them go because I'd rather be free. So making those choices out of advocating for yourself and advocating for your body and advocating for your mind and your time. Yeah, absolutely. And drinking water and exercising is another thing that really you're putting money in your bank account of energy when you're, engaging in exercise. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah. You're the one who taught me about eating, I think you said A+ foods, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah, like why would you put D foods in your body? Like you got to treat yourself well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for me, that's a whole image, right? I can see you
Mhm.
doing that, right? And it's a reminder, right? Yeah, there are different grades of what we're doing, and it's okay to just like to be a top performing student in this area. It is okay because we get the benefits of that, right? There's some benefits
Yeah.
of being a good student.
Yeah. Well, we
Absolutely.
would want that for our loved ones. So why wouldn't we want that for us? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, absolutely. And great energy will come of these behaviors. Yes. All
Yeah.
right. Number 6. What did I write here? Control versus change. It's really, I think the point here is to understand that everything changes
Hmm.
and that we don't want to throw our energy into trying to control everything. And I think that's just tough to learn at any no matter what age you are at because we're just really enamored of our own dreams and wishes and beliefs that we can control things that just really aren't controllable, like aging, for instance, right?
Right.
Like we might be really keeping to our healthy habits and all that, but we're also all aging at the same time. And really just I think that it's some sort of like accepting the reality that is and knowing that everything is changing, but working with that understanding to our benefit is really saying, you know what? Am I going to spend 4 more hours fussing over this one article, or am I going to release it and then have somebody else look at it, save myself 3 hours, and then have this process be collaborative and for my benefit and for the world's
Yeah.
betterment, hopefully, right? And just saying, I'm releasing the control. I'm releasing this tight, everything has to be a certain way model so that I can see the options and I can grow and I can keep growing and I can keep expanding without guilt, without straining the system. I think when I talk about energy, I talk about it because we're energetic beings, but we're all losing energy for so many different reasons that are both appropriate and normal and real and daily living kind of stuff, but also because we're throwing our energy away sometimes by thinking we can control things that we don't, right? Like you mentioned, our
Right.
children and their choices or their pains. Like we only have so much influence, even as their parents, right? So,
Right.
So it's a little bit of maybe instead of control, add play, I would suggest as an alternative to say, huh, how can we make this even more fun? How can we make this fly by, right? So that we're not even thinking of this as work anymore because we're midlife women and we have got a lot of on our plate in any moment, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it is, I think the digital world has made us feel even in more control of our destiny because, we get so much, our feedback loop is, we are reinforced by seeing all of our ads are that we see are focused on our needs and wants and uh, you know, they're self-serving. We can dismiss things, we can dismiss delete emails, we can, we're the queen of our own queendom, right?
Yes.
But and that comes with a price because then you get to feel like, oh, well, we do tend to become a lot more invested in keeping things as they are. Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
think you always want to have an eye on your energy, right? Are you feeling uplifted? Are you feeling like you have enough? Right? And
mm,
if not, like it's okay to pause and it's okay to scale back, right?
yeah,
And that's an experiment, but that's called living. And just saying like it's okay, nobody's perfect here, and it's okay for me to tend to my own energy.
yeah.
Okay.
And I think also just putting your blinders on to all the and maybe this is on your list, but just the multiple distractions that come our way into our world that we feel like we need to do, like that. Oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to do that. And over scheduling ourselves and over extending ourselves. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to be careful in this kind of like self-nurturing way, kind of careful.
Mm.
Again, we're reducing the stress as in
Right.
every one of
Reducing
these
the
steps.
stress and increasing our energy, our
Yes,
connection. Yeah.
exactly. All right. Number 7 is I think a big energy saver, and that is to learn to release or let go of or not pay attention to past versions of ourselves. So
Mm.
this one sounds a little different than the other ones because you're kind of like, what? Is this some sort of Jane Seymour movie or something? It's like uh I think the way I explain this is we are creatures who tell stories and we tend to remember things and see things in story format. It's how we encode memories. Everything is a beginning, middle, and an end. That does not mean that we have to live out the story of all of our past identities, right? Our past identities can just stop because we've decided, you know what? I'm not someone who yells at myself every time I eat a cookie, right? To use your
Mhm.
example, I'm choosing to stop that story today,
Mhm.
And of course, some stories will continue and maybe they should, but I'm giving you the idea that I can just jump identities. I can just decide I'm someone who no longer yells at themselves. And what
Mhm.
a fun story that will turn out to be when you decide I don't have to climax in the story and get the whole epiphany. I can just decide right now I'm changing the story. I'm rewriting the story.
I love it. Yeah.
Okay. Good, good, good. Number 8 is how you're talking to yourself, how you're using
Mhm.
language. Such a big
Mhm.
deal. I oftentimes start my coaching sessions just paying attention to how people are talking, and you really want to eliminate the language of difficulty or impossibility, like I can't, I won't, this will never happen, it's impossible, it's hard. So you want to use language that is loving, encouraging,
Mhm.
positive, not about impossibility. And then you'll see, oh, my eyes can look further because I've allowed myself that space to dream bigger and I think that's not unrealistic. I think that's realistic because your
Mhm.
options are wildly, explosively huge and it's almost overwhelming, but it's okay. You can look, you can experiment, you can tell stories, you can jump into new identities. It's okay. Midlife is a great time to do
Mm,
that. So let's have fun. Number nine is know when you're in your story and when you're dealing with reality. So these are a little bit overlapping, I'm thinking right now, but I think sometimes these things need a little bit of explanation when you're because
mm,
we're oftentimes living out a story of ourselves and we stop paying attention to the fact that, oh, wow, I've kind of strayed from reality. The reality is, I actually have, like you said, your friend, even though she had everything kind of literally burned to the ground, the reality is she's resourceful. The reality is she has many friends. The reality is there will be more opportunities that will be made and will be created by her, kind of a thing. So just don't get lost in the story of your life because there there's such a good reality
mm.
that, and you don't want to blow your energy again fighting that reality, right? It's like
Right.
find the gratitude, find the journal so that you
Mm,
can reflect, how did this day actually go? I'm tired, but actually all these good things happened. I will share with you that at the beginning of the year, there's this onslaught of beginning of the year advice
mhm.
and techniques. I even got into a little bit of witchcraft at the end of the year. It was really
Oh
kind of
my
fun.
God, I love it.
Just, yeah, like blowing candles and making wishes and things like that. But one thing that I did do was I started a page in my notes app that said, good things are always happening to me. And you know what? It's
Mm,
kind of fun to keep a list like that because good things are always happening to each of us. And we're so busy running off how, oh my God, I was the queen of, I'm so stressed. I'm probably, Rita's probably saying, oh, ladies and gentlemen, she still is. But I really was the seer of all the potential failures, all the
mm.
heaviness, all the ways I wasn't up to snuff. And that is just really tiring and is really anxiety provoking and really energy draining. So if you can, maybe because you listened to me and Rita today, put this thing in your
I
notes
love
app and
that.
say, I'm going to coach myself. I'm going to remind myself of the goodness in my life and in my world.
What did you write? Like, what did you say? What was I am going to, good things happen to me, or what is this?
Good
What did you
things,
say?
good things are always happening to me.
Good things are always happening to me. I love that. Good things are always happening to me. I'm writing that down. Okay.
Easy as pie. And then what I
And then I
found
want to
was,
hear, wait a minute, Christine. I want to hear a little more about the witchcraft. So I'm sure our listeners are like, what? Witchcraft? What's that? We have to do a whole episode on witchcraft now. So, just quickly, was it just like what, so blowing on candles, lighting candles, making wishes, like
so
spells, or did we get
there's a
into spells at
whole
all?
I didn't do any spells, but I was doing, I did blow cinnamon into my doorway of my home
Ooh,
on New Year's Day because that is to blow sweetness and,
ooh.
right? Like I'm sure it's like kind of a good fortune thing. Who knows where that was from? But I also did the candles and the wishes thing was a winter solstice tradition. So it goes
Hmm.
way back, right? This is not new stuff. Originated in Germany, I believe, right? And when you think about it, it's like the 12 days of Christmas. It's that idea, but but before the religious traditions came this kind of witchery,
Right.
these kind of
It's
Yuletide
more
things, because
pagan.
pagan, yes, I believe the origin was that because it was so dark and people were fearing darker spirits in the
Mm,
darkness of that
winter.
period of the year.
Mm,
And so this night would be to honor the people in our lives who are deceased, so a day of mourning. And then the next day would be in a day of, I've already forgotten, like day of abundance, let's say, or maybe a day of health. You'll have to look this up for yourself. I know there is a day of mourning for sure.
mm.
And um, what I did was winter solstice on that day, you write down 13 wishes. Each wish needs to be something that you believe you can help to make happen. You tear up the page into 13 strips, roll them towards you because you're receiving the wish. And then each day from the winter solstice on, you randomly choose one, you're not looking, and you burn it safely. And then on the last day, which happens to be, if I'm not mistaken, New Year's Day, you reveal the last one, which is
Oh,
basically the one that you're responsible for making happen. So you've
wow.
released the other 12 to for the universe to help you take care of, but you keep a list, you keep a copy of your original list, and that's the deal. And I have to tell you, I did this with a friend because the night of the winter solstice, I said, Janine is awake. It was really late at night, but I knew she'd be up. And she said, I need this. Let's do it. And we had the best time. It was a fantastic way to connect, to feel really like we're doing something, I don't know, sneaky, pagan, I
Hmm.
don't know. And we just felt like this was adding positive energy to our days. So it ended up being wildly positive an experience. And I think in some ways it was positive because it was new. It was just
Yeah.
something fun and for
Yeah.
whatever, right? No
Well, and it
purpose.
was structured too. There was a structure to it. So it made you feel like something was contained. It,
You know, on top of that, structure is really helpful for getting things done. I do
yeah.
believe that. But it also showed me that I had time that I didn't know I had. It's like time to fit
Mm,
in things that take time, things
yeah.
that are maybe more, a 13 part thing, right?
Yeah.
And it was just a little metaphor for, you know what? You have control over your time. You can put more in if you desire. And I just love that.
Right. Right. Well, we both have had a business mentor, and he would say, you'd get all your things done, and then you have that magic, that little space for magic, which I
Yeah.
love. That's a great way of seeing things. So
Yeah.
yeah, we all have space for magic in our day if
Yeah.
we create it and believe that we do. So that I think that is very lovely. I love that idea. I'm gonna have to try that next year at the
We'll do it
turn of the
together.
year. Okay, you're on.
And I want to put in there that you want to remember your magic as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah.
We're thinking, oh, there's magic around us. We're magic. We're magical beings,
Right.
right?
It is true when you think about how magical our beingness is.
Yes. All right. And then number 10
Drum
is
roll.
one of my favorite topics to talk about lately. It's remove the physical clutter from your life,
Mm.
right?
Well,
And
you're the queen of the clutter queen or the decluttering queen.
I'm a little bit of both. I will accept that. And I've made it kind of a project to help women who are sometimes just overwhelmed by physical clutter to find a way to begin. And
Hmm.
I would say in midlife, you have inherited stuff, you have mementos of your children, you have your own life mementos, you have your own broken and out of date and you don't like the style stuff anymore too. It's everything. There's so much that can accumulate in your home because you feel like you don't have the bandwidth. You don't know what to do with the stuff. You don't have the space. People keep giving you their stuff, their gifts, right? There's the sentimental attachment that you have with these items. So the list goes on and on. And I'm fascinated by how clutter can actually really be the big energy drain in your life, right?
Mm,
And we're letting it sit there and letting it drain us of our energy. And
yeah.
we're the clutter is actually changing how our homes function for us, right? Homes should be places of harmony, peace, family, joy, rest, and safety. I just made that list up on the spot. And I think clutter just really doesn't fit in any of those
Right.
those those terms, right? And they make us think, oh, this is undone. Oh, this is out of place. Oh, this is a mess. Oh, this is embarrassing. And if you're an uncluttered person, congratulations. This one is not for you. But if you happen to be like most of the people that I've worked with, there's something that you feel, oh my God, if I could just get through this. And I believe that when you actually elevate physical clutter and removing it to the top of your to-do list, you actually do yourself such a favor because you're clearing out the roadway, right? That's the whole
Right.
theme of this episode is let's clear out the stuff that doesn't belong so that you get to feel lighter and brighter and more energized and you don't have these energy leaks nagging at you every single day. That's the thing about clutter, right? It's every single day.
Yeah, well, it's always there as a constant reminder. That yeah, very, very true. I decluttered before Christmas and it was so hilarious because I decluttered my husband because he's usually the one who I and I found it was so insane. I found an entire library of piano music that he bought at an estate sale. He loves to go to garage sales and stuff like that in the neighborhood. And our son at the time he bought him was playing the piano and, doing fancy rock on and off and all this stuff. And he's like, well, Archie's gonna play it. I was like, and then now Archie's moved, he's at college. And I said, I don't think Archie's ever gonna like this music was never cracked open. It was never gonna be here. I was like, I think we can move this in. And he's like, oh, you could just see the pain. I mean, I know you deal with this all the time because you help people walk through this
Yeah.
pain. Like he was so pained. He had never invested any like I don't know how much he paid for it. I don't think it was very much, but it was just like the idea of it was just so wonderful like that. I got this whole collection of like this amazing piano music. So he ended up giving it to a neighbor who had a man who collected, antique piano music. So thrilled. And then, he got rid of the energy. And just doing that, it changed him. Like his face lit up. We had this like wall in our living room that was all this like stuff of his that was, music and books and stuff. And I, s- I was like, what would it feel like to get rid of that? And just to have it be, he's like, I don't know. And then, but it just was amazing for him to do that. But it was like to get somebody over that hump. You're dealing with so much emotion, and me too. I had to get rid of stuff too.
And look how you collaborated on that, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's can be a lighter process when we join forces when it comes to clutter,
Yeah,
because clutter
for
has got
sure.
such a grip on us with, right, the wishes and what could have been and what might be. And it's just like, it's enough already, right? It like hasn't
Yeah,
done that. It is taking our time and energy and space, and oftentimes is costing us to keep it there, right? It's costing us our free space, and it's blocking our joy.
right.
And so I love the story. I love the stories of when you release things that they go on to help other people, right?
Hmm.
The energy gets to flow and be the energy it was meant to be. And it's like holding on to stuff, wishing. I don't know. For me, that no longer cuts it. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean I still have some clutter, but for me, I'm looking for bigger and more fun and stuff in motion, right? Stuff that I'm gonna get something out of. And clutter, I don't get anything out of it.
So good. Well, I love the list. I know you scribbled this list down, but can you just repeat all 10?
Sure.
Oh, it's very neatly written. Okay. But just
Oh, that was
repeat all
easy.
10 so that we can have a review. And then I know you have something that you want to let my audience know about that's coming up that's very exciting.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, number one, remember that anxiety is the belief that we won't be able to cope.
Okay.
Okay.
Love it.
Number two, people pleasing. You
Mm-hmm.
just want to reduce that as much as you can, I think, and maybe even eliminate that as a practice. Number three, overthinking.
Mhm.
Just remember, you can just think. You don't have to overthink. Number four, we really need to pay attention and get familiar with our high and low energy patterns and make
Mhm.
sure to implement rest as a new part of that system if you haven't already. Number five, remember to nurture your personal energy,
Mm.
however and whatever works for you, whether that's weight management or taking private time because you're more introverted, whatever it is, know yourself, right?
Yeah,
And be okay with taking that good stuff for yourself because your main job is keeping yourself whole and feeling well and feeling like you can cope, right?
right.
That I feel is like kind of really our main role. And we forget that because we're so busy thinking about everything and everyone. But really, what good is all of that if we're just tearing ourselves apart or falling apart? No
Yeah,
more of that in midlife, especially. Okay. And number six, you want to understand that everything changes. So you don't have to
Mhm.
hang on so tightly to the idea of needing to be in control of everything.
I
Number
love that one.
seven, thank you. Number seven is you can let go or surrender or not pay attention to past versions of yourself.
Mhm.
And that will give rise to the idea of experimenting with new identities right away or whenever you feel like it. Number eight, pay attention to the language you're using, making sure that it's supportive and positive and nurturing of your best energy. Number nine is knowing whether you are living in a story version of things or in reality, and kind of get good at really accepting the reality that you're in, because that can be a huge time saver and energy saver. You're not fighting against yourself all the time, right? So
Right.
I think that's procrastination, is when we've just decided we're going to take a bunch of time and fight against ourselves.
Well said. Good way to look
Yes.
at procrastination.
Yes. And number 10 is get rid of the physical clutter. It is
Mm.
so doable when we know, oh, it's like moving one thing from here to there. In reality, I understand that it's just much more loaded, like you described with your husband and the music for your son. So understand with the complication, it's still a basic movement. And the event that Rita has so kindly offered to help me share is this upcoming 5-day challenge that I have. It is called Re-Energize Your Home, and it is a 5-day challenge where the challenge is not so great because it's kind of like, let's have fun together and toss and get rid of the clutter. And it's 15 minutes a day, guided by me. You'll have hundreds of other people, women and men, joining you inside the challenge. And we're going to start March 3rd. And it is very structured. It's the eighth time I'm running this. So you're guaranteed a good time and an effective system to follow. And I invite you to register now by going to procrastinationcoach.com/free. That's FREE. Again, procrastinationcoach.com/free. And then you'll get all the information you need. Thank you, Rita.
Oh, you're so welcome. And this is, I mean, I have had a number of, because Christine has run these before and I've opened up the doors to and I've participated myself. It is so fun and it is so productive. You really know how to make people have a good time around getting rid of stuff and getting energized, which is so great. What a gift. So thank
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank you.
offering it. Go touch it. And I will have the link will be in the show notes if you didn't catch what she said. And what a great thing. Spring cleaning, right? It's perfectly time to get the stuff out before, you know, to have a nice light spring. I'm always reminded of Laura Ingalls Wilder. There's I forget which book it was, like Little House on the House in Silver Lake or whatever one. It was like towards the end of the series where she and Mary, or was it her? She and her sisters, her mom and dad were gone, and they cleaned out the entire house. Do you remember that one where they just like spring
No.
cleaned? It was spring. Oh, this was like what you did on the prairie because it was everything. They were all inside all winter long and all the dust and all the grime. And they literally pulled all the furniture outside, put it on the lawn, and scrubbed from the top to the bottom. And that was spring cleaning. So.
Wow. And that there's something that sounds so appealing about that, but we don't have to do that, right? We don't
No,
have to
you
go to those
don't. Just
lengths.
do a corner.
Yeah.
Just do your desk.
And also to know
That would be
that
good for me.
I feel like since I've started to focus on this topic so intently that I've come to believe that any time is a good time for decluttering, right? It's like
Yes.
just grab a handful, grab a pile, right? Be
Yeah.
really quick to toss things into the garbage. It's just like these little micro habits that are part of decluttering. It's okay. It's not going to kill your energy. You're going to survive this.
Yeah. I love it.
Thank you, Dr. Christine. That was amazing. Okay, we all have our directive, our 10 ways we can unblock our energy. So go unblock it. Let's create an energy powerhouse, shall we? And make sure you sign up for her challenge. It is a great challenge. I've participated in it before. The link is in the show notes, and you would just go to https for all that little www.procrastinationcoach.com/free. That's procrastinationcoach.com/free to sign up for her challenge, Re-Energize Your Home Challenge. Enjoy. And have a great week. And remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it. Thinking Podcast. Did that episode go by way too fast for you? If so, and you want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release, head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking, Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss, and to learn how to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode.